Good afternoon, everyone. I want to join or welcome you all to November's Lunch and Learn. Just going to take a second and get everything pulled up on my phone also so I can see if there's any comments, any questions, and you can put all of those in the comments below, and I will let both of our participants know whatever you want to ask. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in just a second. So today's Lunch and Learn is for Family Caregiver Month. So we know that families take a lot of time and work, and we care for our kids and the rest of our family all the time. There's no breaks, there's no days off. And we wanted to have some parents come and share about a time when they've realized that they really need to start caring for themselves and really not feel guilty about it either. We know self-care is really important, and we know that if we're not taking care of ourselves, then it's going to trickle down, and our families are going to also have a hard time. So I'm going to let these ladies introduce themselves, and they can start telling about when they really understood that self-care was more than just a little thing, that it really needed to be an important thing in their lives. So I'm going to hand it over to you, and if you guys want to decide who wants to go first.
Hi, my name's Cindy Maurice. I'm a parent. I'm an LPN and a grandma. And I realized it was about 3 years ago. I attended a conference in Richmond hosted by the Newfound Families of Virginia, because my husband and I began fostering kids in our area in the early 90s. And over the course of 13 years, we have adopted 3 special needs kids. And our youngest is the one that has the most challenges medically, as well as related to mental health. And one of their sessions that I attended was on compassion fatigue. And it really hit me, if I had to put my finger on it, it hit me at that time that this is something I was struggling with. So I'm still learning, even after 3 years, I'm still learning that self-care is a concept I needed to embrace and not feel as guilty as I do all the time about it. And one of the things that I have done, I've learned a new skill in the form of knitting and quilting. And that's something I typically do very early in the morning while the sun is still down or still rising, before the house wakes up, and the last thing at night after the house quiets down for the night. So that's something that I try to make a point, even if it's just 15, 20 minutes a day, that I do for me. Other than that, I now have a granddaughter that I help care for on occasion, not as much as I'd like to, considering the current state of the national crises. But let's see, what else? I do read. I do like to read, and not just technical journals. So reading for pleasure. And I'm embraced ebooks. I still like to sit down with a good old-fashioned novel that I can just, something about flipping the pages is appealing to me. So, yep, there you have it. That's me in a nutshell.
Thank you, Cindy. Angela?
Hello, it's Angela Mallory, And my story started several years ago. We have, my husband and I have 7 children between us, 5 boys, 2 girls. We currently only have one left at home, but one of my older children was suffering from some depression, some self harm. Had another one who had attention deficit disorder, dyslexia, some issues there. Uh, I have 2 children on the autism spectrum, including my youngest who's at home, and he's the biggest challenge now. And I've always been that type of, I just keep going and going and going until my body makes me stop. And ironically, my biggest realization was self care. I've been hearing for years and years of how it's important and thought I was making a good effort to include it in my life. But I started a new job earlier this year, and they are very big on self care. And we had one whole month where they had this self care challenge going on. And because I'm very competitive, I was like, I'm going to do this every day. I'm posting something about self care, and I was trying different things. And one day, I just downloaded a trial of an app with some meditation and so forth. And I tried this in the middle of the day after a particularly difficult client. I had a short break. The break was actually only because another client didn't show up. So uh, I tried this short, like 5-minute meditation, and I realized that it reset me for the rest of the day and changed my outlook. So I started because I do a lot of time blocking. Um, I time block time for a meditation for myself, and I don't actually have to meditate that day if I feel like reading a book. Like Sunday, I like the paper books, and or whatever. But I'm doing something that's just for me. It's quiet, a few minutes of quiet time, and quiet time just for me, and it has changed my stress level. It has changed my health. It has changed how I view myself and how I view others, which I was surprised that taking care of me would help me look differently towards other people.
Thank you
So,
both for sharing. Um, so I'm looking over at Facebook, and we get a lot of thank you for sharing, and it's helpful, and it is. It's very helpful to learn new tips and new ways. Um, we know some people may get stuck in, these are the things that I know that I like to do, and sometimes hearing some new tips, new ways of performing self-care, practicing self-care is always helpful. I think things like self-care challenge are good. They kind of push you to try new things that you haven't thought about. You know, if you've been with the VFN a while, we've told multiple times that bubble baths aren't for everyone, or um, some of the really classic things just aren't for everyone. I like going for walks, but every time I'm ready to go, so is the whole family. And then I lose that time for myself. So I still do it. The family goes, we need to be outside. But I've also had to find a way to find some self care for myself where I can be alone if that's what I really need. And it's knowing what you need. Um, do you guys have any other tips or ways to find new self care ideas, or was it really once you found what you liked, that's what you stayed with?
well, I like to try different things. I have found that it's important to schedule the time. I work full time. I am a student. I homeschool my youngest son, who's on the autism spectrum. And I could go on and on. And I'm also a wife and mother, and every volunteer here. So I have all this going on. So I schedule everything because if I don't, I won't get anything done. So I have found it's really important to make time, and I also found that once I started actually time blocking that section of time for myself, I would actually do it. If I just had a to-do list and put read a book, me time, whatever, it wasn't necessarily going to get done. But when I had this time that I knew was set aside and dedicated for me, sometimes it's 15 minutes. Other days I may get an hour, usually not, but you know, but it's made, and then it made a difference. I was more likely to do it. Um, I did play around with the time of day for myself. Sometimes I would start in the morning, I would start in the evening. Just for me, just by chance, one day I happened to find out that afternoons what worked for me.
So it definitely sounds like it's a process. So if it doesn't work one way, try some stuff, do something different, try, you know, different skill, different practice, different time.
Definitely play around with something that you like. Try something new. If it doesn't work, a lot of things I've tried haven't worked for me where I would like them to. It's not something I necessarily do it again, but I still had that time set aside to try something for me, and it helped me.
Yeah, it helps to know what your, when I started this journey, it was looking back at my hobbies and what I did in the past. Are they the same hobbies that I have now? Not so much, because in the past, I did a lot of picture framing, and that doesn't work so well with our current um, life. And stained glass was something else that I enjoyed. Those two things don't fit as well as they did in the past. So I'm having to focus on things that, one, typically are quiet, um, and something I can put down and walk away from and come back and pick it up later. Um, so it took that transition or evolution and trying to find something else that I could do.
Yeah, definitely. I used to do a lot of sewing um, for myself, and that's something that just doesn't seem to get done with my son around and stuff. But one of his sensory issues are the sounds, so the sound of the sewing machine. So I can't do that when he's home. So I'm not able to get the enjoyment out of that and the relaxation that I used to. But like you said, we have to evolve. It's a process. We have to change. Most of us are not the same person we were 10 years ago in any aspect. So you got to expect that your needs for self care are going to change as well.
The VFN on Facebook right now has their self-care challenge that we do every November. And each Thursday is a different part of the challenge. So it's relational or physical or spiritual. And you just kind of check in. The good thing is you get other ideas because we have you put in, like, what are you doing? What do you like to do? Share your ideas. So that's obviously has already started. This is the last week. So everyone is able to go back and look and join that. There's also a link there that you go to, and it kind of gives this long list of ideas of ways to practice. So when you ever feel like you don't have an idea of what to do, or you feel like you've exhausted the few ideas that you can come up with, sometimes it's good to take a fresh look. We also have self-care Saturdays where we try to put up ideas of ways to self-care, or even just reminders to self-care, like Angela does by blocking it in, and like Cindy does, who knows like if early in the morning and late in the evening are perfect times to do it, and that's when she does it. I know before I started really thinking about needing self-care, it was very hard to think of a time to do it because there was always something else that could be being done. So I needed to really make a mind shift of this is the something that needs to be done, because I'm not going to be any good to anyone when my body just like, we're not moving anymore, you're done, but there's still things that really did need to be done. I also now look for times where I can say, start laundry because that's something that needs to be done, but while it's washing, while it's drying, I have a little bit of time for something else. So it's finding those few moments of time to be able to do something. It doesn't have to be this big block of time or a big project or a big thing that you want to get done, even if it's just a little quick something. Crafts are a good idea if that's what you like, because you can do a little bit of it, put it down, move away. Books are great because it's the same. You can read a couple pages and then move on. Just something to kind of give yourself a few minutes to charge. Meditation's great because it doesn't have to be a long process. Before I really started thinking about what I needed, the last kind of thoughts that I had was I didn't even know who I was anymore besides a mother, besides my family. But if you ask what I liked, I don't know, but I could tell you what my family liked. Even like little things, like I can tell you what flavor each of my kids in ice cream would prefer to have. But if you ask me, I don't know, whatever the kids are having. So you really need to think of even just little things for yourself.
Yeah, what you said, Nicole, reminds me of cooking dinner. It's something we have to do every day. Obviously, we have to cook every day. Sometimes we want to make lasagna from scratch, and it's going to take hours or all day. And other times, we need something quick and fast. Either way, it's going to recharge our bodies. And if we have those recipe books, we have this we can go look at. Some are going to work. We're going to like them. Some aren't, but we tried them. And it'd be the same thing with self-care. We've got these resources where we can check and say, oh, let me try this. It may or may not work, but you tried it.
I think one of the tricks is to realize that it doesn't have to be a big thing. Find the joy in the little things. I think that is so important. Is finding, and if you can't get an hour, half an hour, moment to moment, just mindful breathing sometimes will do wonders. So yeah, just realize it doesn't have to be these big things when you think of that. Sure, I'd love to go to a resort spa for a weekend. But right now, that's not our life. So finding the joy in the little things would be my best tip.
I want to thank you both for joining me today. And I think the tips that you've given and just the helpful insight to how important self-care is has been very helpful. Before we go, I wanted to ask if there was any different or unconventional self-care ideas that you have for anyone that might be feeling stuck, so they can also kind of know that it doesn't have to be a typical self-care idea.
Sometimes it's been hard to find time to do something. I mean, now I'm time blocking it, but you get to where maybe you need an extra time that you weren't able to time block, just 5 minutes or something. I've gone and sat in my car just for a couple minutes. It's quiet. And that I know that for me, quiet is something I need to be able to calm down and recharge. I can just go out there. We probably all had those moments when we were counting to 10 or 100 or whatever. But if you can find a couple of moments to walk away. I also know my mother, she got her time she was a mom. She had 3 of us, and we were always like kids, but bothering her. She would go lock herself in the bathroom and read a book. for 10, 15 minutes because that was the only place we wouldn't bother her.
There's posts or memes on Facebook, on the internet, about mothers sitting in closets to find time. And like you said, it doesn't have to be a closet, but there's just finding a few moments to be able to be by yourself where no one's going to come and kind of knock on the door, or at least think that you're kind of busy doing something else. Or the car is also a really great idea. I just would always need to remember to like warn everyone I'm not really leaving.
Right. Even if it's just walking outside for 5 minutes, the closest park, community park is 20 miles away from me. So that's not always an option. But I live on 5 acres of county land, and I do have a nice flat area that I can go in the backyard for 5 or 10 minutes. Is it ideal? No. But does it do the trick? Yes.
Lately, I know almost everyone now knows that I own a bunch of land. I have a bunch of goats, and I don't live at my land, so it's not easy just to go outside and kind of be there. But when I can block, it has to be a good amount of time to go out there, to spend some time there. And that's what I do, is just kind of walk around and play with the animals. We have a horse now, so, I get to hang out with her. And it really does help to just kind of be in nature and just be out in the open. The fresh air is good. The sun is good.
One thing I would suggest to someone who is just starting, they haven't gotten to the point of blocking out time every day or something, is start out smaller than every day. If you set a goal to spend 10 minutes to yourself every day for the next week, and something happens tomorrow and you miss that day, then you're likely to feel like you have failed, less likely to keep going the next day. But if your goal is to start 3 or 4 days this week and you gradually work up to 5, but if you can get 7, it's great, then you're not setting yourself up for failure, and you can continue going on.
It's a great point to make.
Because life happens.
That's right. So again, I want to thank you both for being with us and taking the time to share a little bit of your story and how you really get to recharge and continue doing the great family caregiving that we have to do every day. And again, I just want to remind everyone that there is the self-care challenge. If you want to go back and look and see what kind of ideas people are putting there, if you wanted to join, you can absolutely add to whatever comments are already there. So I hope everyone has a great rest of their day and a great Thanksgiving coming up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.